back to you, Ryan, for anything else legal.
Yep, so the town board has been presented with a tentative agreement between the town of Lewiston Police Department and the union representing the officers, Teamsters Local 264. This was provided to each of the town board members well in advance of tonight's meeting. So if the town board is satisfied with that tentative agreement, I would just need a motion approving the agreement and a motion authorizing the supervisor to sign that tentative agreement.
Two motions.
Two motions.
Motion to approve the agreement as it has been presented to the board.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Authorize the supervisor to sign said agreement with the police department.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Anything else, Ryan?
That's it for legal. Thank you.
Okay. Engineering.
Yes, I just have one item I'd like to bring the board up to speed on. As you may recall, we had began the secret process for the Riverfront Park project for the town. There were lead agency coordination letters sent out on April 25th. That 30-day comment period ended on May 25th, just a few short days ago. We received comments from a few organizations, one of them being New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, that listed several permits that we need to obtain as the project proceeds. We got a letter from the Western New York Land Conservancy saying they have no objection to the town being lead agent. We got an email from the Army Corps of Engineers saying that there's some permits we need to obtain when we put consider putting the kayak launch, and they suggested we consider coordinating with them as well during the design. We also got a letter from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, what we call SHPO. And what they also don't object to the town being lead agent, but do recommend, and actually I should say require, that a phase 1A, 1B archaeological study be conducted on the site, okay, as part of the secret process. So we had solicited some quotes. We've got one back so far from Morton Archaeological Research Services. That's a firm that we've used in the past, and in our experience, they perform very well at a very reasonable price. There's a quote that I'm sorry if that's me, but there's a quote that they have provided to us to perform that phase 1A and 1B archaeological study for a total lump sum fee of $5,140. So if that's okay with the board, I would request an authorization to engage Morton Archaeological Research Services for the Riverfront Park project.
Yeah. Any questions? I guess make a motion.
A motion to approve the, say it again,
And
the company?
the proposal from Morton Archaeological Research Services.
Morton Archaeological Research Services at the amount
You know, I
of-
do have a question.
Okay, yeah.
Motion set at an amount of
$5,100.
Yeah, $5,140.
$5,140.
I'll second
We
it.
have a motion and a second. Questions?
Why exactly do we need an archaeological study?
That area within the town of Lewiston along the river is known for, quite commonly, for the presence of archaeological artifacts. And whenever there is a project that's going to involve ground disturbance, even though this does very minimally, the SHPO will require a phase 1 or sometimes a phase 1A and 1B study to determine that if there's any ground disturbance.
No, enough said. It's
Okay.
a requirement. It's a requirement.
It's a state requirement, and that's a long and short.
Even though many years ago, this property was all disturbed when the water was being pumped up, but they're gonna look again.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've identified the site itself is 5.7 acres, and they've identified there's 1.6 that's already been studied. So they were able to reduce the amount of land that they actually have to study. So down to, I think it's 4.1 acres. So
Just out of a courtesy to Bob Emerson at the fort, I think we should let him know that this is going on because he'd love to watch to see what's happening.
be happy to invite them.
Bob, no.
And just for finance, this will all be Greenway money.
But we do need to follow.
In compliance with our procurement policy.
Right. Will you set it out for how many bids? And I got back to one?
We've only got one back. We requested one from a company called Pan American, and we've not got that back yet.
Well, let me ask this, would this be considered a professional service because of the unique nature of what they do?
In my opinion, it is, yes, definitely.
I'd have to look into it, but my thought initially was it would be a professional service.
So could we amend the motion with attorney approval after you research it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So then,
Second. Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
so happy we're moving forward. It's
Yeah.
nice to have all those positive responses.
There's always something that comes up, comes in. I mean, I remember when they were redoing Main Street in Youngstown, and they found bones and artifacts, and it's shut down for about a year. You had UB students down there, and they're, every inch of it, so, yeah.
Okay, that's it, unless there's any questions.
I don't believe so. Finance, Jackie?
I placed in front of you a request for your approval to process 2 transfers to further fiscal year end 2017. They are annual transfers that we make for the Recreation Department, special events, and the recreation concessions. And the other was for the ice rink. They're transfers that are processed for the profit and loss of these. And then processed for our auditors. All of the accounts and the amounts are in front of you. Do you want me to read them?
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. For the special events, money is going into H6100000200 0000 in the amount of $45,000 even. Coming out of H6110005031 0000 for the same amount of $45,000.
It's going into that account.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Move for
We're
approval.
gonna make a motion on that?
Well,
Or do you wanna finish the other one?
still more.
Okay.
And the other side of that transfer in the A fund is A00995009050000. Transfer to capital projects for $45,000. And A000002000000 cash for $45,000. And that's for the special events recreation.
Can I get a motion on that?
I make a motion, we make those transfers.
Second?
We have a motion, a second. Any questions?
Well, I still have the other,
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
we're doing this.
Yeah,
One
all
at a
in,
time.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Now we'll go on to the second one.
and for the ice rink, H49990109004403, transfer to other funds, ice rink, for $11,718.01. H49000002000000 cash for the same amount, 11,718.01. In the A fund, A000002000000, cash, same amount. The A00010050314403, transfer from H49 ice rink for the same amount. And that completes that.
Okay, can I get a motion to make those transfers?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any questions on the issue? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Is that it for finance?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councilman Baxter took care of his business. Councilman Guyman, I believe he took care of yours. Okay. Councilman Jacoby?
I don't really have anything other than You know, the Lewiston Council on the Arts ran the Taste of Lewiston. It was apparently very successful. And we're ongoing with the historic preservation. It seems to be moving forward, tortuously slow, but we're hopeful.
Yes, Ryan.
And then the other thing that's not really a liaison, but I have attended a couple meetings about the Bree Estates project in town of Niagara because I'm concerned about the drainage, only in response to people came to me with concerns that the drainage is going to affect the town of Lewiston. So I'm no engineer, but I go to the meetings and listen to what they say. And if I hear anything interesting, I'll keep going to the meetings and I'll bring it back to the board. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Are we allowed to request a retention pond on our side of the property line, the town line? And have the developer pay for that?
Private property.
Not our property.
Private property.
We would have, could we get permission from the private property to put a retention pond?
Probably okay.
Yes.
Well, from an engineering standpoint, would that be the answer?
No. There's a retention pond on the developer's property. It's all designed in accordance with New York State DEC regulations. and
My
guidelines.
understanding is when a developer presents a project, he's supposed to improve drainage to the area.
Okay,
Correct.
well, generally,
So-
that's
so
ideally.
If the area is on our side of the town line, that developer going to improve the drainage on our side with his retention pond that he's putting?
Improving it, I don't know that there's a drainage problem there right now. All that water right now flows into the town of Lewiston just right now.
But it doesn't stay in the footprint of the ditch. It flows over. So,
I don't know that. On the Hasley property, north of the town line,
yes,
I'm unaware of that.
I thought, Chairman of the planning board was emphatic on that.
Chairman of the planning board said that.
The zoning board.
No, I believe her concern is when the project is developed, that it's going to affect the
But
town.
she's indicated there was already some overflow in that area.
But there needs to, the town's interest, I should say, from a permitting perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, then, is that there needs to be a floodplain development permit issued by the building inspector. Okay, and there needs to be some ditch work done to improve the ditch to accommodate the grades within the project on the town of Niagara side. Okay? But that drainage will actually reduce the amount of flow and improve it to some degree along that property line. Now, that's still a work in progress, okay? So we're not near ready to improve or approve or discuss with Tim the issuance of that floodplain development permit at the moment.
Because that project is in such close proximity to our property, we have a right to provide input.
Yes. You do.
No, just one comment. From my understanding, the overall design of that retention pond or detention pond is, or the design of the plan itself is to have a zero impact on the overall flow that comes off the site into Lewiston, in the town of Lewiston's drainage system.
No greater than it is now. It's a
Right.
rate.
But the rate.
The rate.
But what it does, it extends the
Duration.
duration of that outflow. So there shouldn't be any impact as far as, any more flooding. It should be, from the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong.
To my knowledge, we've had no complaints from the property owner in the town of Lewiston, but other people have made an observation. So as long as I hear what you're saying,
It's
it's
extremely controversial within the town, or the town of Niagara, I can tell you that.
Mrs. Ashley would have to sign off on the floodplain development permit as the owner of the property that creek goes through. And my conversations with Mrs. Hasley in the recent past, she is not willing at this point in time to allow anybody on her property. So that could go to,
And without that, they're not building.
Correct. So that's definitely still a work in progress.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you'll stay on top of that, you'll stay on top of that, keep us informed.
Okay, Councilman Morial.
Yes, we have a site plan for the west side of Lower River. The planning board meeting in regular session on May 17th, 2018 reviewed a site plan for David and Deborah Maris for property located on the west side of Lower River Road. SBL number 73.18-1-36, adjacent to 4242 Lower River Road. The planning board recommends approval of the site plan as presented with the condition that Niagara County allows the roof leaders to be tied into the 30-inch drain pipe or the backup plan if needed and subject to approval from the town engineer. I'd like to make a motion to accept the planning board's recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, open for discussion. Now, out of curiosity, Bob, does this require an archaeological study?
The single-family home?
Yeah.
No.
So if we were to build a single-family home on our property and not a town park, we wouldn't need an archaeological study. It's the same ground, that
Sounds
was
like an argument to me. It's up
curiosity,
higher.
right? I mean, just curious.
Good point. Good point, David.
So, yeah, but yeah, it's just, yeah. Go
One
ahead.
point of clarification. The engineer of record is going to the county to, with the idea of trying to tie the roof leaders into that 30-inch drainage main. They do have a plan B and a plan C in case that is not approved. And that's what we've asked them to do, is if they don't get their approval from Niagara County for that tie-in, then they have alternative plans that they'll pursue.
Okay.
And they'll have to review that with county.
Any concerns, Tim?
No, it's a pretty straightforward project, and to address your concern, we did send that, even though it's a single-family home, it is in the Riverfront Overlay District,
Right.
so we did send that to the Environmental Commission. The Environmental Commission reviewed it and gave its blessing on the project.
Then we got a negative deck to approve, then
Correct.
the environmental commission review. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're still in discussion.
Oh, I'm
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Go ahead,
Okay, now
Council.
we got it. No, it's my fault. The environmental commission reviewed a site plan review for David and Deborah Maris for a property located on Lower River Road adjacent to 4242 Lower River Road at our May 9th meeting. The environmental commission voted on a negative deck approving this project. I'd like to make a motion to accept the environmental commission's negative deck.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any questions on the issue? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Then we have one more, or two more, seasonal hires. We have an updated list of 11 seasonal employees. I'd like to make a motion to accept, and Donna has a copy. So can I
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yes, well, do we have to state the wages
Well, I think we say as printed.
as printed?
It's printed, yes.
Okay. As printed. We'll amend that motion as printed.
As printed, yes, the motion will be as printed.
I have
Second
two, I
as
have two
printed.
copies in front of me.
Yeah, you got the update, it should be an updated one.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
And then the last one's excess equipment, the storage shed in Washuta Park. There is no expected value of this equipment. The shed is actually, should be destroyed. So I don't think we should put it out the bid
No.
because it's a dangerous.
And just to add to that, it was a shed that was donated
so that's-
years ago, and it's in deplorable condition. It needs to be destroyed.
Right. And I say we make the motion to destroy it and not to put it out to any type of bid.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second discussion, when I talked to Mike, he said he had a second shed too, in the same condition, same location. Has anybody talked to him?
He just has the one on here.
He just has the one, and
15 by
he's not
20.
here, so.
Okay,
They can
just
wait.
do it
They
either
can
way.
wait. Yeah.
And the other thing, I suggested that he contact the fire department to see if they would like to move it to a safe spot and see if they want to do a fire response If not, just take it down. Right now, where it's located, it cannot be a fire response.
Right.
It's under wires.
And let me make it clear, this is the 15 by 20 wood storage shed located at West Shore Park.
Okay. So we have an amended motion.
Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. That's all I got.
That's it. We already went into executive session. Resident statements, we're going to limit the resident statements again to 2 minutes each. I don't have anybody that signed up, so I'll just ask if anybody wants to speak. Yes? Well, yes, sir.
Can I come up?
Yes. Just state your name and address, please.
Jeffrey Miller, 1516 Swan Road.
Hold on 1 second, Jeffrey. And your address again?
1516 Swan,
Swan.
spelled with 2 N's.
Okay.
Thanks for the time, and I'm here concerning the shooting range in back of the fire hall. I want to make it nice. I kind of not have been lately because it's really getting to my family. My wife Rebecca, and my 6 children. We have a farm across the street, and when we moved here 20 years ago, it was pretty mellow. You know, there occasionally people would go back there to sight their guns in during deer season and whatnot. There were some regulars there, but like I said, it was pretty casual. Over the last couple of years, there's a regular cadre of people that go there quite often. It's very loud, and it's for hours. Just last weekend, there were 8 cars there, and they had more weapons than I could count, and it was just all day. So I wanted to stop. I wanted to slow down. I want my life back. We can't do anything. I got 2 kids with high-functioning autism, and this is what they do most of the time. And it's just not fun anymore. So if you guys can't do that, I'm going to have to leave. Or what I'd really like to do is expand my farm and purchase 50 acres, which is across the street directly next to the fire hall. But I don't want flying bullets back there when I'm working back there, so that would kind of suck. Mr. Masters, I'm asking you, what is the minimum distance you can fire a weapon next to, like, say, agricultural tool shed or a barn?
I think the DEC requires 500 feet.
500 feet. And do you know what the frontage is in a fire home?
I do not off the top of my head.
Probably not 500 feet.
I'm sure you can come in,
Yeah.
you get to come in and talk to
It's
them
on the
about
tax
it.
map.
Yeah, if you came in, we could give you all that information.
No, that pretty much answers my question. So I'd just like to have a little consideration, if y'all can talk amongst yourself and figure something out with the fire department. Officer Nicoletti, I believe, stopped over last weekend and had a chat with us, and he said, he kind of intermediary between us, and he said no shooting on Sundays, which would be great because I'm off Sundays, and no shooting from the pavilion to the berm. They call it a berm, but it's just like a pile of dirt that's 8 feet high, not very wide, and they shoot way back from the pavilion, way back. And when that happens, you're making the target smaller and smaller, and yes, there are bullet holes and trees back there, so that's really dangerous. So Officer Nicoletti advised that they bring and shoot right up against the berm, which would be a great idea. But the very next day, they were out there shooting back from the pavilion again, but it's comfortable, but it's also dangerous, and that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I would like to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to speak up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, just what's your first name again?
Rebecca Miller.
Rebecca.
I just want to speak up for my children with autism. And I think there's another family as well. You know, they have rights, so this clearly affects them negatively. So if there's any way we can get less fun.
Could you come here for a second?
I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. Why?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Yep.
About this shed is.
Hold on. Everybody, this is Rosemary Warren from Sanborn.
This is Sanborn. You know, I was wondering if that shed couldn't be a controlled burn practice for a fire company.
Well, that's
Is
what-
it wood?
Yeah, that's what Mr. Guyman,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's located now, the answer
You
is
can't.
no. if they would like to pull it off someplace, they could. Mike thinks if you pull it off someplace, they'll probably just fall apart.
It's in bad shape.
Okay, I just thought they could maybe
Yeah,
go right on
I-
the spot.
yeah.
Warren, we always think of the fire company because they're always looking for places to do their control burns and
Right.
practice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Just a question about the cameras, sound system, anything?
We have an update. You gonna read it? Dr. Abendanza said he was hoping to have it in for today. And obviously, we have to get it the building wired appropriately.
He spoke with the electrician a short time ago, was informed that they would be able to complete the installation of the Cat 6 line and power line at the end of next week, Friday, June 7th. We must then arrange for the activation of the Cat 6 network cable. Once complete, we will run a number of tests to be sure that the system is fully operational. After this is verified, I will make arrangements with Lockport Cable for uploading our meetings to be televised on the PEG area channels and added to the Lockport Cable monthly schedule. Additionally, after installation and testing, I would like to schedule a dry run with town board members and anybody interested. I suggest the town board meeting in late June be the first run of the new system. That was the polite communication that we had. He's extremely frustrated that when he came in here, it wasn't finished. And my frustration is that when we redid this room, it should have been done at that time, and that was an oversight, and apologies given. I jokingly said to him, this may, hopefully it doesn't take longer than the Korean peace treaty from back in the 50s, even though there's activity going on now. Very frustrating. The man has put his heart and soul into this project, and he's just at wit's end.
It started before I took office, which is going 2.5 years ago. The disappointing thing for me is now Lockport's cable access is 1,301. You don't stumble across 1,301 when you're going through your channels. So that's an unfortunate.
When we do get it all set up, we've asked Donna to put it in her newsletter, and we can put it on
the board.
On the board too, saying that this is happening. And if all goes well, there'll be a brief delay when the meeting is taking place right now, and then also be rebroadcast on the Lockport channel.
Well, in the meantime, in the interim, the Taxpayers Alliance continues to keep it on the Facebook page.
Well, we thank you for it.
Add it to your resume,
I'll let
Steve.
you go by.
Okay.
Add it to your resume that you're a candidate.
Yeah.
Amy Whitrow?
Mr. Supervisor, just a couple of questions. Mr. Lannon, on the kayak project, was DEC on that list?
Yes.
Okay. And the ordinance on the shooting area, was that the noise ordinance that was being referred to?
The I-1 district regs.
Okay, it might be worthwhile taking a look at the town's noise ordinance. There are also apps that you can download onto your cell phone that will actually measure in decibels a sound. I don't know if there are any that measure vibration and those kinds of things. But there are lots of EPA studies on continuous sound and disruptive sporadic sound, which may be relevant to the town's noise ordinances. Unfortunately, I missed the Memorial Day parade because I was down this weekend with a sinus infection, but Tuesday I came back to life a bit, and I read Mrs. Glasgow's letter in the Sentinel, which I was unaware of. And I read with interest some of the general statements that Mrs. Glasgow made in terms of her observations or opinions about the board, but I was quite surprised by the information that I read in the editor's note. Mr. Supervisor, did you provide that information to the Sentinel?
I provided information to the Sentinel that was incorrectly printed.
Oh, okay, so relative to what would be the corrections to the information?
You're talking about going out to the Phoenix Open Golf Tournament?
Well, all of it.
Well, the one that I talked to him on was the golf tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to a PGA golf tournament in Phoenix, Arizona, the Phoenix Open, attended by 200,000 people.
Okay.
And I walked up as a law enforcement officer, you got in for free.
Okay.
And
So-
he misunderstood what I said. I was not personally invited by Waste Management. And like I said, when I saw that, I cringed. So.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, and I spoke to you about it, and you knew that wasn't true.
Well,
So-
that's why I had a question as to
Right.
whether or not the information I had been given was still accurate.
Yes.
But you didn't discuss the litigation with Mr. Duffy? The statement that the town's not in litigation with CWM?
I didn't get into
It
that.
was supplied to Mr. Beers.
Yeah.
That,
And
Okay.
I asked Lyle for responses
Right.
and responses with the comments on, the comments came from my reporting on past meetings with regards to the town's involvement.
Right. If you want to discuss with Mr. Duffy afterwards, but if you want to make
Well-
a statement in regards to it, feel free.
No, I would only say that the editor's note was inaccurate as to the other statements, and I hope that you'll correct it, and I'll be happy to speak with it afterwards. But if perhaps you discussed it with
Well,
Mrs.
like-
Queso, there may be some inaccurate information
No, I
as to the
didn't discuss
litigation.
anything with Mrs.
Uh,
Queso.
Okay,
Well,
okay. This is
he
for you.
he just said that
Your
he
state-
spoke with Mr. Vax and didn't get any comments,
Right.
which begs the question, where did this inaccurate information about the litigation come from? But I appreciate the clarification on your end, and I hope Mr. Duffy will correct any inaccuracies for the benefit of Mrs. Glasgow. But I was quite surprised. I've had critical letters written about me, and yet I've never been consulted by Mr. Duffy before the publication. So it was highly unusual to see an editor's note particularly for a general letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Petro. Mrs. Petro. Anybody else?
I've got two items. Okay. The aforementioned Mrs. Glasgow. The camera, there's a lot of people that don't get, like I do. I have DirecTV, a lot of people have Dish. So I don't get Delphia Cable or LCTV,
Spectrum now.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's charter sometimes. I've asked this before in meetings and whatever. Is it possible for those people who cannot or do not get charter or Delphia or whatever, that it could be put onto the website of the town for viewing?
For viewing?
For viewing.
Yes, I can't answer for viewing, but I do know that if I wanted to place the transcript on there, the transcript can be
Okay.
placed onto the website, yes.
Because what you're doing is great, but it's for naught. Because there are people, a lot of people that will get this channel, wherever it is, but there are a lot of people who won't.
Not to interrupt you, but our goal is to put it in our YouTube channel like the town of Wheatfield does.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that will be announced, that it will be like you'll have a YouTube access via the town website.
Yes. Yeah. Or link. I think a link's the easiest way.
Okay, because that's what we have. We have a
Yeah.
link to our Facebook
Right.
page and our website. The other thing too, and I don't want
Of
to
course,
cause,
those
and,
people who don't have a computer will be at a loss there too.
but you haven't, I don't want to highlight Mrs. Sanborn, but Mrs. Sanborn does not have a computer.
I'm poor. I pay taxes.
So she's not affected, she's not going to be affected. She won't be able to see the meetings.
People who go to the library use it.
She lives the meetings.
I gotta put a can out there before.
But the other thing too, and I don't want to cause controversies, just as a point of information. With the Bree estates, we had Mrs. Munzie and Louise and a lot of other residents spoke about that. You were asked, I believe, a couple of meetings ago, I believe last year, about input with regards to this development. And if mine serves me correctly, you asked if there was any reason for you to respond, and you said no. Even though the issue of health, safety, and general welfare, because it's up the street from the elementary school, the road is narrow, the drainage was discussed. In your minutes,
if mine is right, I believe you were asked to comment on this, and you said no thanks. But please check your minutes on that. I think that did occur. The other thing too is, and I love you dearly, Bob, but I think Mr. Lannon needed to recluse himself. I believe his firm or he represents the town of Niagara in this issue. So there's an issue here. If Mr. Britton is sitting there and he's telling you about drainage, that's great. But I believe there's a problem here. And I don't want to get you in trouble should this thing go through. If people come here and say there's a conflict of interest. I'm just giving you a heads up. Is it my understanding that GHD and Mr. Lannon are representing the town of Niagara in this issue?
They're the town engineer for the town of Niagara.
Because I see Mr. Lannon's name in the paper with regards to this issue. And I want to make sure that Bob does not get any kind of repercussions here, that he recluses himself and maybe brings in another engineer when this issue, should it come to pass, comes before the town board. Mr. Britton, Mr. Mike, whatever.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
I'm
is that
fine.
it?
I imagine you're going to respond, but that's just as a point of information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I could say from my point of view, I actually feel comfortable that we have our engineer on both sides because he's going to look out for us, you know, in both. If there is a conflict of interest, and Brian, I would certainly ask you to look into it. I kind of like the fact that our town engineer is involved in the process, and if there is concerns from the town of Lewiston's perspective, he would be aware of those. I don't know if there's a conflict of interest. I don't know if Bobby, you want to add anything to that?
I can't remember when, but it was several months ago when this became more to light than just some scratch lines on the paper. I declared to the town and in public that I was the town engineer reviewing that project on behalf of the town. The review is much more comprehensive in the town of Niagara, okay, because that's where his property is located. The interest in the town of Lewiston is a floodplain development permit, okay? So having said that, I in no way, shape, or form see any conflict of interest whatsoever in this case.
We'll look into it. Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, Amy Wittriall again, would just refer the board and Mr. Lannon to the Code of Ethics for the American Society of Professional Engineers. It's quite specific when there are distinct parties relative to the same engineering project. So relative to conflicts of interest and recusals, which I have encouraged this board to review the town's ethics code, quite frankly, ad nauseum over the last 2 years. It is not a mark or a scar to recuse oneself. It's actually a sign of integrity to do so, and I compliment Bob for having disclosed that earlier. But for Bob's sake, it would probably behoove the board to perhaps consult another party when there's a shared project. And I'm sure Bob would like to avoid a clear conflict with the professional engineers code as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Rob has to go, just so everybody knows. Thanks, Rob.
Just from working in the industry, if GHD were a designing engineer, then I'd say there'd be a certain conflict of interest. But as a reviewing engineer for both towns, as far as my professional opinion, I've never.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely look into it, and, you know, and respond. So I thank everybody for their concerns. Upcoming boards, commission meetings. Just so you know, there is no town board work session in June. So June, July, and August, there are no town board work session. The Environmental Commission is June 12th at 7 p.m. Historic Preservation, June 12th at 6 p.m. Zoning Board of Appeals, June 14th, 2008 at 7 p.m. Planning Board, June 21st, 6:30 p.m. And our regular town board meeting will be June 25th, 6 p.m. with a public hearing on LMK development at 6 p.m. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Can you give a second?
Oh, go ahead.
Second.
All in favor?
This meeting had-
Rob
this meeting
seconded
had a
that
little
as
bit of-
well. Thank you, everybody.